Check, check. Hello, hello. Welcome to Thursday Night Saws. You all hear me?
Yep,
Everybody's up and going. Oh, Cotton Top.
yep, I am here. I'm here.
You've been putting in some hours here the past week.
Man, the past several weeks or whatever, it's rained just about every Friday. And so like Thursday rolls around, man, and just been, killing it trying to get it done. And then we did this grapple install here in the last couple of days and got it all up and running and everything. So yeah, it's been I'm kind of ready for a break, you know what I mean? And stuff.
Well, you had to turn on the radio and the air conditioner in that fancy new machine.
I know, right? I know. Oh, I was supposed to get stitches out yesterday over here, and I ain't
Oh,
got them out. I got some more of your basil cell up there cut out the other day, man.
oh man.
So makes number five for me right there.
Oh,
Mm-mm-mm.
yeah. My doctor on the radiation said, "Don't let them cut on you. Let them come back over here, and I can put the machine on you." So I don't know. They're back and forth on that now.
Are they? Man, that stuff's tough, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. So I'm gonna try to slip in the morning first thing and get these stitches taken out. No, they cut me about that long this time right there in front of my ear,
Yeah.
and stuff. So.
Mine
Yeah.
they took off on my arms healed up pretty good. So but anyway, it's a challenging thing. You got to take care of them though. They grow.
Oh yeah, yeah, they do. They do.
But tell me about that head. I was looking at it last night or night before. You're gonna have kind of what's the reach on that arm? What's the height on that new head?
It'll that one right there will go up like 23 feet is what
Oh,
it'll reach up height wise.
you pretty much
Yeah,
got a mech truck then on that thing, huh?
yeah, somewhat to an extent, and but it's I fool with I don't know why, but I end up fooling with a lot of really really big trees all the time, and I make it work. And this right here kind of worked out, played in my favor here, and it's going to be a huge bonus on those big stems, those 5+ foot diameter stuff. I won't have to cut them up, quite as much, being able to handle them wise. And then just having an available saw there attached to the grapple, being able to cut stuff up like when I'm trying to pirouette stuff or I'm working something, I can work it to the chipper. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I get it to the chipper, I can, cut it in pieces or whatever, shorten it up, or anything like that, and so it'll save me some time from getting up and down, off the machine because it's running a 404 pitch harvester, organ
Mm-hmm.
harvester type bar, like what a processor runs. 80 gauge is what it's running, and
Yeah.
everything. And
You can
so
square file that. Keep
yeah, I
keep the
know.
barbed wire down.
Yeah, that's right. I I like square filing all. Gosh, dog, man, it just takes so much more work to do it than
Yeah.
around. I mean, it's just and if you you got to be perfect on it, to get it. Everything needs to be. It don't have to. I wouldn't say perfect, but it needs to be really close to perfect.
Well, I'm not doubting you could do that. You couldn't do that. I think you could do that. You know that?
I could do it and all, but yeah, it's I tell you what, I have done some sawing the last February, March, and the beginning of this month. It's been pretty crazy. It has been crazy and stuff. So I've taken some trees down, boy. What you talking about?
So
So
you can work that thing around a pretty good sized stump like you just do the bell machines.
yeah, you can. Well, see, you're not gonna cut. You're not gonna be able to like fail with it. You could technically fail something small with it, but it's mainly set up to cut up and cut limbs off and stuff. It's
Yeah.
mainly a saw like this, not
Oh,
like
okay.
that, like a bell would have been, and everything. Because if you were to fail, you would have to reach straight out like it's sitting right there now.
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't have any leverage,
Yeah.
because you'd be all the way out, and stuff. So, Uh, it's just it's going to be a big help on working stuff into the chipper and through through getting it cutting crooks out or bows out or just any forks
Mm-hmm.
or like especially on like those big trees I fool with, I can take and sever the weighted limbs off up, say three-quarters of the way up, just drop them, just reach up there. And I'm never having to try to get into the canopy of the tree on the ground by foot. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so you know how those big trees are just they go up and then they branch out, and you kind of gotta work your way into them, and you're all the time, you're in there and you're in between limbs that you've done cut off, they're laying on the ground, and there's all the time an opportunity for something to move on you, to catch you or something or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
this will help that a lot because I'll be inside the machine.
Yeah.
And,
One of the trucks I saw up in Massachusetts a couple years ago, it had about I think a 68-foot arm on it come out, and then they had it on a big 33-foot bed, and they could reach
hmm
out into a front yard similar to
Sure.
here, I guess. They pull it in
hmm
and saw it off and put it right in the back of the truck.
Oh yeah, yeah. The stuff that is available out there for to help in the safety aspect to make the job so much more efficient and safer in the tree world is mind-boggling. And there's a lot of people who scoff at it. They look at it, they look at the price tag on the stuff, and they're like, that's just too much money, or something like that. Their thoughts, and I mean, it's you really can't put a price on that, in my opinion. And the efficiency in, I mean, if it keeps your longevity going, and that's what's so great about the safety stuff and the things that you've done over the years, it's there to keep you safe and to make sure that you can keep continuing working, that you don't do something that's going to get you hurt in your 20s and mangle you up to where you're crippled or you're in your 30s or in your 40s. I'm in my 50s now. You're in your 60s, still running saws. And that's what I want to do. I want to continue on that. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to pay for whatever I need to, help me out in that aspect. And so I don't let that bother me because I know at the end of the day, I'll smile when I hit that button and I'm making my cut, and I'm not dealing with it right there in my face and
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah, definitely the equipment makes a big, big difference.
it does. It does. Some of the stuff is so efficient. I mean, you can literally go in and do jobs now in less than a half a day that used to would take, 2 to 3 days, multiple guys working on just feverishly from 8 hours straight, each day.
Hmm.
When you roll in there and you can get it done in a matter of a few hours before lunch, you can be somewhere eating lunch, the job's completely done. Just roll in there. I mean, there's guys using cranes that are taking these big trees and just making 3, 4 cuts on the entire tree, and that's it. They're just rigging them. They're spider legging them out off the hook. Where where
Hmm.
they're holding them balanced. And just
Flying them
making
out of there.
thousands of pounds of cuts at a time that they're lifting, man. And the poor ground guys on the ground, it's just, it's, they have to roll when that thing comes down. I mean, because they got a lot of work ahead of them. Because I mean, basically, they took a quarter of the tree at one time.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's it's really it's nuts the technology. What gets me, like I was dealing with on this machine, is just the hydraulics that are there. The technology in hydraulics is crazy. It's like this machine that I got. I can take and flip all the buttons that are on the joysticks. I can completely swap them in a computer from joystick to joystick. And not only that, but I can actually swap like the buttons. this one and this one, I can swap them like that on the joysticks too in the computer. You can change your pressures, you can change your flow rate, just by clicking it in the computer.
So that
You
puts a
know,
whole new aspect to electric over hydraulic, huh?
it does. Yes, sir, it does. It's this the stuff that's out there is just absolutely nuts. I mean, it's crazy. So good stuff. Good stuff. But
We just we finished up another storm sawing workshop today. David did it.
hmm
I'm not cutting much, but went over there and did some videoing and stuff. And
hmm
I think he's on here. And have you ever met Warren Causey with the
Oh
Sirens
yeah. hmm
Project? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've met Warren. Yep. Sure have.
And looks like Robert Albritton's on here. So they're all they're all hanging out. Hey, we've been talking about past few weeks from here to there. I'm calling it, and
hmm
talking to guys and seeing, where did you get your first training when it comes from chainsaws? And I know your story on the later part, but I'm interested in when you were 2.5 years old and you started off in the log job with your dad. Tell
Uh,
tell us about how you got started.
I uh, I just started just out of necessity. You know, I was told not to touch a chainsaw, and that was kind of the wrong thing to tell me. And so I was basically just there. I was probably about 10, 10 years old, 10 or 11, something like that. We had some 041s. We had 041 and we had 041 AV, which was an anti-vibration
Hmm.
model of the saw. And I could pick the saw up. I remember it being rather heavy, but I was there just to be there because that was the deal. I mean, whatever dad did, that's where I had to go. And so, um, I remember him, I watched him and my uncle run saws a little bit. And I remember him leaving a deck on the skidder to go get another drag of wood. And, I thought I'd try to crank the saw. I just thought they were cool as heck. And so I snatched it. I stood on it and snatched it, and I could crank it. I could pull it good enough. I could crank it. And I cranked it, and I kind of, I remember picking that thing up with it running, and it was like, I don't know, it like lit a fire or something. It just felt good. I liked it. You know what I mean? And so Uh, I didn't. I was trying to listen for the skidder because I didn't want the skidder to shut off and dad to hear that saw running, and everything. So I cut it off and the skidder's still running. So crank it up, and cut me a limb, and everything. And it just kind of transpired from there. I guess it's like a kid smoking a cigarette and he finally gets caught by his parents, or whatever. Well, finally, dad realized that, when he come up there that there was stuff cut that was not cut when he had been up there before, and it just kind of went on from there. But I was uh I was really intrigued with what you could do with the saw chain. And I didn't have anything explained to me on kickback. I just kind of understood it. I could tell by the reactive force as to what not to do. And so I'd sit there and just play board stumps, like boring stumps. I thought it was just the coolest thing to, bore down in the stump and let the saw, like it would hold the saw up, where you could see it. And I just done that all the time, man. I'd bore into the stump and do that. And it just, it just kind of transpired from that. And it's just one of those things where I just understood it and got it. And that, the rest is kind of history. And then it aggravated me because I could cut a tree down, but I could not make a tree do what I wanted to do. I knew there was a way that you could command a tree. And that's what I wanted, to command the tree to what I wanted it to do. But I never knew how to do that till that dude come up there on our job from Auburn down there. And man, that was all. When I seen that was all it took. It was over with then, and just getting that down pat. Love that, and stuff. And um, so that's kind of where it went. I actually had a guy today from up in North Carolina. He said, "I'm willing to pay you to come down there and just work with you where I can learn. Where I can learn how to cut a tree down, take a tree down.
Hmm.
And I get that a lot of times, but you don't never know who you're dealing with either. When you're in that situation. So, but yeah, been it's been good. Saw chips, chainsaws, and stuff's been good to me all over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of us that way. Last week we had Dave Zerfoss and his wife Barbara. They
Hmm.
were on. Dave was a 18-year president, North American president for Husqvarna.
Hmm.
He
Right.
retired, and Barbara's the one that kept us all going out there because she was the marketing manager, and so the Power Products team, which was David and Bryant Ellis and about 10 others, and yeah, she was talking about a lot of the things we laughed and laughed and laughed last week with all the different things that they put us to doing out there. But yeah, it's amazing how it got in Dave Zerfoss's blood as far as chainsaws, and he just absorbed himself in the power equipment business and did pretty well with it over the years. That's for sure. And same with us.
Hmm.
A lot of history, a lot of history.
Yep.
So you got your daughter married off now.
Yeah, got her married off 1st of March. Got that done, and I'm gonna tell you what, that was tough for me. I mean, that Sunday after the wedding. I think I was actually in a state of depression. I mean, it killed me, man. I mean, I got over it, but I mean, it was just. I guess anybody that's had a daughter, I guess, they probably can relate to that or understand what I'm saying. But I'm gonna tell you, it just that was tough. But yeah, we got her married off, and everything went well, was good. So had a good time with the all of that. That pretty much consumed us about the month of February, leading up to it, and all that. And of course, I was working like crazy too, because February is normally a very wet month, and we had some rain, but it wasn't it wasn't that bad. And so I was able to just work because all of my insurance and everything is due in February. So not only is it the wettest month, but it's one of my most expensive months too. So, I had opportunity to just kill it, and I did, and enrolled into March, same thing, just working like crazy, and so, and it don't look like April's going to be no different. But I told Jill a while ago when I was eating supper, I said, I'm kind of ready for my life to kind of get back to normal, because the thing with this, to pull off what we did in 2 days to install this grapple
Yeah,
saw and
oh God.
everything on this machine, that was a pretty monumental task right there. I'm going to tell you, that was not very easy, but we made it happen. So, so Rotobeck flew a guy down from one of their factories up there at Littleton, New Hampshire, and so he was here. He got here Monday night, and he was here. He was here till we got it running, and he was a big help on it, especially kind of on the tuning. I got a little bit more tuning I got to do on it, and so that was a big help. But I tell you, like in a storm situation, it's going to be really, really handy, in that kind of situation too, and because you'll be able to kind of force opposite compression tension if you need to, and manhandle a tree per
Mm-hmm.
se,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of alleviate those risks associated with diving in there, you know, me and a saw making a cut, and everything. Because as well as I do, sometimes it don't matter how much experience you've got. You can look at that tree a bunch of times and it's still going to react a little bit differently than what you kind of anticipated doing. And that's kind of, you got to kind of be ready for all that. So, but, uh, but yeah, so yeah, I had time tonight to jump in here and join in. So good.
Appreciate that.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
really didn't really prepare any topics. We had so much going on this week, but I was hoping y'all would show up. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Warren is he's been out in the storms. Where you been, Warren? You've been was it North Carolina? Where were you at this past week? You said you were working storms somewhere.
So let's see. I think 2 weeks ago we were in Amory, Mississippi,
That's
leading
right.
the high schoolers out there, and had a lot of fun with them. 23 high school students, and they got
Mm,
to kind of be a part of the planning process and help us set our ropes for directional pull lines and everything. And they were really excited about that. So we had,
Well,
we had a
so
really
in
good time.
Amory, you were right here by me then. You wasn't but
Yeah,
about 40 minutes from me, man, and
I should have
everything,
called
man.
you.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
you should
should
have
have.
hollered. You should have
That
hollered, man.
That'd have been fun. I
Yeah.
bet the children, the kid, I call them children, the students, would have loved to see some of that equipment and stuff. And they all, I tell you what, even more so, the girls and the guys
Mm-hmm.
were very interested in the tree stuff and running
Mm-hmm.
ropes and everything. I mean, the girls were lined up, 15 deep to have a chance at throwing a
Mm-hmm.
throw line to set a set a rope, So it was pretty cool. And just to be able to share some knowledge with them, and we gave them the opportunity to kind of, we look at a tree and kind of say, okay, what are your initial thoughts on
Mm-hmm.
this tree? Just kind of get an idea of how their brain works and everything. And so it's a really good experience. And I know Amory was appreciative. Was love that community. They've been nothing but super hospitable to our group even last year when we were first there. And
Mm-hmm.
then yesterday I was in Rockdale County, Georgia, just south of downtown Conyers, where we had an EF2 go through. Um, and so it's only about an hour from my house, and so I drove over there and kind of jumped in and just helped where I could, clearing driveways and stuff like that, doing some ingress egress type stuff, and kind of now just waiting to see if our local VOAD, is how involved they're going to get, and if we're going to set up kind of any response effort there. Probably be another 2 or 3 days before I really hear from them on that. So just kind of waiting on that, and but yeah, it's been pretty eventful past 2 weeks. A lot of fun.
Look what he's been doing, Cotton Top. All that engineering brain of his has taken to a 3D printer.
I was going to say you 3D printed that thing. It's probably a lot lighter than an aluminum one, ain't it?
It's a lot lighter.
Uh,
It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
that's pretty slick. So see, about it's been not quite a month ago. 8 Days of Hope they had like 1,500 volunteers up there at Amory. I was in Tupelo working a job up there, and one of the guys that his family owns Amory Hardware that's right there in. He said they were coming in there and just they were mainly like working on houses and stuff. They just come in there and just did a big blowout, trying to doing carpentry work, electrical work. And Brandon, I was talking to, he said that they were just coming in there every day, just cleaning them slap out at the hardware store, just coming in there, just grabbing everything that they could get. And they were trying to get stuff shipped in as fast as they could. But man, if you're ever around here, you need to you may have my number in the email, get my number whatever, and text me, and I'll carve time out, man. I'll do whatever I need to do, and stuff, and then if you got time, I'll take you out somewhere cool to eat at night or something, and everything like that and stuff. So yeah, man.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. I love the state of Mississippi. I'd probably spend a little too much time there during tornado season for the wrong reasons.
Right.
But yeah, I'll absolutely do that. And I love what you were talking about earlier about the machinery and stuff, and the equipment that's available. And
Yeah.
being a mechanical engineer, I'm infatuated with the design and just
Yeah.
how much safer and productive equipment
Mhm.
makes certain types of jobs. And one of our dreams for our organization is to definitely go in that direction where
Right.
we're like you said, it's expensive, but at the same
Mhm.
time, the safety that it offers, the productivity that it offers, like you said, you just can't put a price on that. And I would
Mhm.
love to get to a point where we kind of introduce some of that more specialized equipment into the volunteer realm.
Yeah.
So
See, Chris and them, God's pretty crew. They got a lot of mechanical stuff, and I helped them. I hooked them up with Rotobag. They bought a couple of us mini excavators and put Rotobags on them. They got a lift too. They got a nifty lift, the SD64, and so he can kind of get into more. When those storms hit, you got all these volunteers that come in there. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. Come in, and then if you've got somebody that's got that stuff like that, you got so many people on the ground doing things, that want to do stuff. So there's like, if you've got mechanical equipment, you don't need to be doing what the volunteers can be doing. You need to be doing the more challenging stuff, working on that stuff. And that's what Rook and I did last year. After the tornado come through Amory up there, we hooked up and we worked that entire week. And there was stuff that we were doing that just nobody could do. I mean, there were other tree companies there with tree mechs and cranes and stuff like, but they were charging. They were charging a lot. So Rook and I, we were probably giving up. We were doing 4 to 6 jobs a day off of houses, big removals, and we were probably giving up $50,000 to $60,000 a day in reality. And
mm-hmm.
Rook has 4 or 5 guys working for him, and I'm traveling up there, every day. And there were people that literally got mad at us. Some of these other guys that had cranes and stuff would get mad at us because we were doing it for free. We were running around. We called it trees that could kill you, and that's what we were after. And I had people in my videos ask me, said, how can you do that? Well, the thing is when there's stuff like that and it's a time of need, it all boils back down to, and I say it in my videos all the time, in life, you only get what you give. And there's a time you got to be set up where you got enough cash back, where it doesn't matter. You just get out there and get it done because it's going to come back to you in the end. It's going to make a full circle back, and God has given me just incredible talents, with the equipment and being able to own it and then operate it and with the saws. And so I try to do all I can. You don't necessarily mean that you got to give everything away, but you do as much as you can, So,
That's right.
and that's
That's great.
that smile is a payment enough for me.
That's right. No,
So
that's awesome. And Rook, he's got I know he's got a pal finger. Is it a PK65?
yeah, it's a
What is it?
65. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's a 65,
it's a
and
good
he's got a
crane.
spider. Yeah, he's got a spider lift, and he's got one of those big pal finger debris trucks now too. That's like 50 something yards and stuff. So yeah, we can pull up on one, and literally it takes about the same amount of time to set the crane up and get it going as it does to get the tree off the house and go on to the next one. Stuff, so,
Right.
but
Not to you could get into a cool, we've thought about it. You get into a cool little routine where you can get the tree off the house, do
Yeah.
the real technical and dangerous part of it, and then
Hmm.
another organization come in right behind you and
Yeah.
limit and bucket, get it to the
Yeah.
street, and just moving
Well,
like that. It's cool.
that's what we would do. Crook would send his guys most of the time somewhere else, and it would just be he and I. And I would get up on the roof or whatever. I would make the cuts, and he would do on the mech. If you've got if you really want to make that machine shine, any kind of grapple saw truck, if you can make what's called balanced picks, and that's where you're not grabbing where you're going to cut. You're going to try to balance that piece, and you got a guy making a cut. You can make so much larger of a cut in a pick doing it that way, and you can just literally just mow a tree like a blade of grass like that. And so once I made the final cut, I'm getting down and I'm heading on to the next thing to start to get prepared for it or whatever. If there's stuff in the way, I go ahead and take my excavator and I get that stuff moved out of the way for him to come in there. And then he shows up. And once he shows up, his guys are still on the other job. They're there kind of tidying things up over there, kind of wrapping things up. So it's kind of like an assembly line, if you will. But if you got something like that, like what you're talking about, that's the way to do it because then you don't have too many people, because in this situation, you got too many people and the people are having to watch for the people on the ground, and it's real easy for something bad to kind of happen if you ain't careful.
Absolutely. That's why we were talking about the planning process in our legacy course with Tim, and I always kind of chuckle to myself because one of the hazards that you have to look out for is other operators having too many people on the
That's
on
it.
one work site, and it can get kind of out of hand. And we actually, it might be a little unconventional, but with our organization, we basically limit the amount of volunteers per deployment to about 6 or 8 people, and that's kind of how we've done it.
Hmm.
Just because it kind of becomes, I know in the fire department, you have so many people that you're responsible for.
Hmm.
Like your management. You're not supposed to have too many people for somebody managing. In that chain of command, and so we try to keep it pretty lean, just to
Hmm.
help be able to manage some of those work site risks. Now, with the students, that was a different story. We weren't moving very fast. Is a year after. There's no other
Hmm.
organizations really we're working on top of, and it's just
Hmm.
kind of more of an educational thing
Hmm.
than a true response. So there are times for everything, but yeah, like you said, it can get kind of crazy when you got a lot of people running around trying to help. Great intentions, but it can be
Right.
hard to manage.
So that kind of dives off into something. So we talked about a while ago the equipment, and the equipment is very expensive, make you very efficient. But also with the equipment, you've got to have operators too. So let's forget about that. Let's say you're in a situation like y'all are where you may not have equipment. The things that can help make you safe and can make you efficient or whatever in that situation, you've obviously got PPE stuff, personal protective equipment, right? All right, and then you got the other stuff. You got gear, saws. Making sure that the saws are the way they're supposed to be. Chain brakes are working. They're functional. But the biggest thing on the saw is having a cutting edge that's sharp. And that's simple stuff. That's stuff that don't cost that anybody could do. And we're just kind of talking along those lines. Like I said, forget about the equipment. But then, like y'all, do y'all run any kind of communication like centers or anything like that in your helmets?
We do, yeah. So we have 6 helmets, and that's kind of why we limit the amount of people. But we have 6 helmets with Cardo Pack Talk bolts
Right.
on them, and they're all linked together in the same group.
Mm-hmm.
And we love those. Were actually, we saved up for a skid steer, fundraise for that. That was a game changer, obviously. But probably even more so, just from a safety standpoint. The comms were
They're
just incredible. I
huge.
mean, I love them.
Yeah. You can't, people ask me about them, and I tell them, my produce is 300. And I said, you're basically going to pay 300 or 350 for a com to go in it too. And they're like, holy cow. I'm like, listen, if there's one thing that besides saw chaps that are, cut protection that you've got to be able to communicate with one another. I mean, that's just impeccable. I mean, you got to have that. So what's some other stuff that y'all do that y'all have at your disposal, that don't, that's not don't cost a lot of money that y'all use?
We so kind of in the same line, one thing we like to do is bring some kind of whiteboard with us, and we'll do, a site assessment, and then we will have, the work zones, and then kind of the staging zones where we refuel, take breaks, and stuff like that, and where the
Hmm.
trauma kit is, where that's marked. That's marked on
Right.
the site, and then, just like the address, the closest hospital. We identify who the safety lead is, who the team lead or safety officer and team lead, and their names and numbers, and then everybody's emergency contact info, and that's all at
Hmm.
the kind of at the truck where we've designated as the safe zone, for
Hmm.
off work site kind of stuff. And so we try to streamline some of the safety stuff, so you're not thinking or trying to figure out what you're going to do if an unplanned event happens, kind of thing.
It's
That's
a
one big
lot
thing.
easier to have gone over that and have a plan in place if that unplanned event happened, because sometimes depending on what the unplanned event is, you may not have but a matter of just, under a minute to get something taken care of. And boy, that right there, if you got something, say you got five guys, there may be two of them that's kind of maybe forgot something, but there's going to be one or two that have not, that's going to know what to do. And that's a huge deal. When I worked in the woods with my dad, logging, we always knew where the nearest medical facility was, whether it was a clinic or something, and knew the address where we were. That was very important too. And sometimes even now the cell phones, they triangulate and everything, but they may not be exactly accurate. So one one step more than that, need to have somebody there that can speak to a 911 operator. They can kind of tell the first responder, I'm in this white truck with the strobes on it in front of this red house. That's where you need to come to. I'll be standing there on the road, that kind of deal like that. Because man, those seconds like that matter. Because I'll just tell a short story. I don't, y'all may have had an unplanned event happen, but I had a guy have a massive heart attack on me in the woods one day, and it was very, very scary. He didn't die. Got him to the hospital, but on the way there, I was on the phone with 911 the whole time, and she was talking to me, and she said, you can get here. She said, we can send somebody, but you can get here as quick as they can get to you. So you just keep coming. You just keep coming. We're going to have, when you pull up, they're going to be looking for your truck at the ER entrance. And all you got to do is stop. We're going to take care of it from there, kind of deal, and everything. And they did. And, as soon as I pulled up, they had a gurney there far, and there was three or four people, and they popped the door open and was dragging him out. So this that's really, really good to have that kind of figured out beforehand. So didn't mean to go off on a tangent there,
No,
but
that's
yeah,
great. Especially in the disaster zone, kind of like you're saying in the woods, it's kind of similar
yeah,
where
yeah.
roads are all congested. Cell phone service isn't great to begin with, depending on the scope of
Hmm.
the disaster, and there's a lot of
Hmm.
things to take into consideration. And a lot of times, the safety officer on site isn't cutting, isn't doing anything but
Hmm.
watching the site and kind of we call it like a rover situation where
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of going over everything, and your attention is not on something else, where you have a kind of a
Sure.
whole scope. So if something does happen, no one's trying to figure out, okay, who's gonna make the call, who's gonna
Mm-hmm.
do whatever. It's that has already been designated from the beginning, and they're prepared to do that. um so no, those are all great points, though. Sure.
Do y'all send somebody in ahead of time before y'all get there that kind of bird dog stuff, or y'all working with the emergency management people there or whatever to kind of help y'all where y'all need to be?
We kind of do it one of three ways, really. So I've been chasing tornadoes since 2011. I'm fascinated
Hmm.
by tornadoes, kind of a weather nerd. So a lot of
So
times
you're
I'm
hoping a tornado comes through and just wrecks everything, huh?
well,
You're one of them.
I hope, basically, I'll tell you a really quick story. That the perfect tornado I've ever seen was May 28th, 2013 in Bennington, Kansas. And it
Hmm.
was rated EF3, but Doppler radar on wheels. The Dow trucks were measuring wind speeds of well over 200 miles an hour. And
Hmm.
we were about a quarter of a mile or less away from this tornado. And it rode the frontal boundary where the storm initiated. And it sat in a field for 45 minutes,
Really,
unobstructed, and moved probably 3 miles in 45 minutes. And
really.
so it was the craziest thing to sit there and just watch this thing, go. And it didn't hit anything. I think it hit one barn structure, but didn't do any residential damage or anything. And I was like, that's the kind of tornado I like. Where you can just kind of experience it without anybody getting hurt. But here in the
Really.
southeast, unfortunately, that's just not going to happen. We get a lot of
Hmm.
violent tornadoes here, and we're a lot more populated than in the Great
Hmm.
Plains. Um, but to answer the question, sometimes I'll be that bird dog, kind of like what you're saying, chasing tornadoes. Sometimes, me and maybe two other guys will be in a truck, and we're actively tracking the storms, and we'll kind of roll up on a damage scene, around the same time first responders do. And we kind of introduce ourselves and say, hey, we're here to help. We're trained, and we'd love to just be able to help, get you guys access to certain areas of the community if that's a need. And a lot of times they're very accepting of that, and they say, absolutely, we're kind of overwhelmed or
Hmm.
whatever. And so there's been multiple times where we actually get law enforcement escort throughout the community. We're
Hmm.
talking minutes after a tornado, just to help open some infrastructure and stuff like that. And through that, we can kind of gauge an idea. Okay, how bad is the damage? Is this worthy of a multi-organizational response, or is this something local resources can handle, kind of thing? And
Hmm.
once we get done satisfying their needs, we're out of there. We let them kind of just take over. We're not there to try to run their run their community. We're just there to supplement any efforts that they're already doing,
Hmm.
kind of thing. And so that's one way we can get plugged into a community. Another way, and this is more typical of what we like to do, is let some of the bigger organizations that have really good assessment teams and have really strong contacts with local churches and everything in that community
Hmm.
already set up camp, and then they start to generate work orders, and stuff like that. And then we kind of just supplement some of their efforts. So there might be certain things that organization's not comfortable doing, tree related, and so we'll take those job offers, or work orders,
Hmm.
basically,
Right.
and just supplement that effort. And then there are cases where we work directly with the EMA. If it's not a huge response, we'll, I think a good example is, Clayton County had a severe thunderstorm come through here in Georgia, had some blowdown. It wasn't big enough to warrant a multi-organizational response. But because we're a member of VOAD, state VOAD, they recognize that, we do tree removals and stuff like that. And so they just gave us a call and said, hey, there's a couple of needs in our county. And they've kind of vetted it already. These are lower
Hmm.
income, underserved areas of the community. They
Right.
don't have insurance, that sort of thing. Would you be able to help them out? and absolutely, we'll do what we can, kind of thing. So there's
Mhm.
about 3 different ways that we kind of get involved. We'll partner up with God's Pit Crew. We've done that a couple of times. Another organization called Inspiritus. Minutemen's another big one,
Mhm.
and so we'll just kind
I
of
remember seeing them in Amory Minutemen up there.
yeah. So yeah, I think we're all kind of I don't know. It's interesting. We're all kind of a little community. We all kind of
Mhm.
know each other at some level, and so anywhere we can
Well,
help
y'all
out.
gonna show up in the same place if something happens. Everybody, y'all gonna be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all just going for the snacks, probably is what it is, you know.
Man, I tell you what, you're working all day long, but somehow I gain weight on deployment.
Well,
Everybody's
man, what
feeding you.
it's like every time you turn around, there's somebody coming through there with food,
That's
want to
right.
know you need some food, and everything. I'm like, no, I still got 2 dozen donuts left. I ain't gnawed on yet.
That's
But,
right. You just feel so bad not taking it.
yeah, it's
That's all good.
uh, it's crazy the amount of volunteers that there are in all these different entities and everything that show up. When there's a need like that to help others out. And I know I wasn't involved in or anything. I wasn't up there. They did our church had it at they was a hub for a disaster type training thing with Saul's here. Weekend before last, I was actually working an open house at the local saw shop here when they were doing it and everything. But so they try to have trainings at least once a year to try to get some of these church members, who are wanting to do stuff with a saw, because obviously the storm stuff and a chainsaw is not the best place to learn the ins and outs of running a chainsaw and not the time to be figuring that stuff out, because that's when some of my trainings that I do, I say it's no different than a bomb squad going in defusing a bomb because basically you're got a wood bomb right there in front of you, that you're trying to keep from killing you, and so it's uh it's neat, but it's also neat in the training, like the people who you can tell they're timid or they're worried about it, and I take them down the road here and I'll mark up some blowdown, with some orange paint, and everything where I want them to cut it, and why I want them to cut it right there. And you can kind of see they're scared to death to stick that saw in that thing and start to make that cut. And it's like, well, they cut and it's controlled. And I'm like, well, that's why we do it the way we do it, and they're like, okay. You can tell that they get a little bit more confidence in it and what they're doing, and stuff, and then get a picture or something later on from them in a text or something later on, several months later, where they worked somewhere and they're just tickled to death, that they've done something, and been able to conquer it, so to speak, So,
No, that's cool, and I'm so thankful for Tim's expertise and just letting us in on some of the knowledge that he's gained over the years. Because I kind of
mm,
unconventionally talking about from the here to there conversation. First time I picked up a chainsaw, I mean seriously picked up a chainsaw, was 2018. So,
really,
I'm pretty, in the grand scheme of things, I don't have a ton of experience, year wise, like some of you guys have. But, just being an engineer, I take industry standards very seriously, because people die, when
mm,
you don't. When you're designing anything, it's really important to take in consideration, and abide by industry standards. And so I kind of just, with that mindset, went into the tree care and chainsaw world and just soaked up as much information as possible and kind of treated it like I would have in college, or trying to learning how to design things properly, with that same intensity. And obviously that just doing research led me pretty quickly to what Tim's put out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very thankful for people like you, Cotton Top, and Tim, and just anybody out there who's willing to put information out there for people to absorb. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it changed completely how I operated a saw. Learned very quickly that there's a whole industry standard for chainsaws too. In arboriculture, and it was
Mm-hmm.
it was great to learn that. And so, no, just super thankful for all you guys.
There's a lot of people that haven't seen that information. That's the sad thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about it here the past couple of weeks, and there's a lot of YouTube and a lot of Facebook stuff, and goes on with a lot of different operations when storms happen too. Is
Mm-hmm.
you know, I had one message back said, well, if you're experienced, then you know what to do. You need to know how to get out of the way and all this kinds of stuff, and it's a planning process. It's not experience. It's something
Mm-hmm.
where it doesn't make any difference how many hours you got on the chainsaw. If you miss that plan when you walk up there to that big pile of brush you're talking about, or tree, you have a chance to get hurt. And I see
Mm-hmm.
so many times where people don't think about in videos and talking to people of starting off with what's the information that caused me to choose to do it this way. When
Mm-hmm.
you say, well, I'm gonna swing this tree, or I'm gonna cut it no notch, or I'm gonna do this, that, and another, those techniques, there's nothing wrong with them in certain cases, but Lord, you need to explain how you came up with that particular technique, because if not,
Mm-hmm.
people look at, oh, that's easy, and next thing you know, you've got somebody hurt,
Mm-hmm.
or something is messed up. But you take like Cotton Top and his things, whether it's equipment or whether it's chainsaw, he takes in consideration the PPE and the planning processes and stuff. He always says, I'm going to do this, and then he does it. But
Mm-hmm.
he explained why he did it that way, really before he started, or right after he did. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's an important thing when we got people out there of any volume looking and talking about stuff, and especially, I've had a lot of this with some of the Samaritan Purse groups. Is been doing a lot of training with them here over the past month or two, and it's something to where trying to go back to the basics are so important to keep negative discussions down, and situations coming about. You've got to think about, I can't walk up and talk to somebody like Cotton Top that has experience unless we're both talking the same basics. Isn't that true,
Mm-hmm.
Tim?
That's right. Yep.
You,
You're
you,
exactly right.
I can't, I used to, I remember I thought about it this afternoon. We were talking about chain, and I had this guy, and I was doing customer service on the phone, and we sold Oregon chain, and this was down in Nicholson's in Atlanta, and this guy called me up. He said, "Look, I got this roll of chain here, and I need to get another one or something. This stuff is no good. It's just coming apart." And I said, "It's falling apart." "Oh yeah, I put it on saw and it's breaking like crazy." And I don't know how many hundreds of rolls that we'd sold out of that particular batch, and I hadn't heard anything. And and so I said, well, let me ask you a couple questions. What do you set your depth gauges, your rakers at? He said, well, I've been doing this for 25 years, man. I can tell you, I've got, it's nothing wrong. Your chain's junk. And then I said, well, I understand that. I just need to ask you some questions, and then I'll send a pickup order for it or whatever. But I said, what size saw are you putting on? What kind of saw? What kind of wood are you cutting? Man, I've been doing this for, I'm telling you, the chain is junk. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I know pretty good bit about chain, and I'm sure he does too. But we've got to go back to the basics to be able to figure out what the issue is. And sure enough, when I finally got it back in, there was a bunch of soft teeth on that roll. But it was something, I ended up sending it back to Oregon and stuff like that. But that happened maybe twice in my lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
that something would make it through there. And it was some test chain they were checking, hardness, and somebody put it on the wrong reel. And it was
Mm-hmm.
it was a situation where he had got a hold of it. But with his experience and my experience, we couldn't communicate because we were we were trying to go by experience instead of the basics. You know, and I see
Mm-hmm.
that a lot with fuel issues with chainsaws and you know, chainsaws going down or hard to start or whatever it is. We got to go back and go back through the basics. But if we're both talking the same basics, we have enough, you know, brain to be able to figure stuff out, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
it is. And so that's really the key. And we all need to really push hard on that with a lot of the training and what people are calling training and information out there to make sure that we're concentrating on the why we do this and how the information comes about on that,
Mm-hmm.
especially on storm situations, because there's no more dangerous things. I mean, you know, you could log for 20 years and not get into some of the situations you get into at Amory,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
You know,
There's
and
probably been a lot of people, I'm sure, over the years, and I've had it told to me that have been mangled up or have been hurt, and they're like, "I wish I could have had some training before this happened, to me or whatever." And and that's you see somebody like that. I mean, because you can get hurt to the point to where you just can't work no more. You're disabled, and I mean it that quick, wrong move, and and you're you're done, so, but good stuff, good stuff.
yeah. Well, guys, I guess we've had a good chat tonight. I know we've got one. I had one thing from Lee Dawkin. I don't know if you've ever met him or not, Tim, but he thanks you for the 550 XP Mach 2 content you did because I think he bought one.
Yeah, I think he commented on a video today, maybe, or somebody. There was somebody that had commented on it, and that's the 550 is still my all-time favorite saw, and just simply, it's just a good saw. That saw is bulletproof. It's light. It's got crazy power, and you can sit there and you can run it, and you can run it, and you can run it, and you run it. Longevity for you and for it is just and it's smooth. It's so smooth. I had a boy running mine today. I was hauling some debris
Hmm.
for him, and he's like, "They never run no saw like it." I was like, "Well, you ought to grab one of my other ones over there if you think that saw is bad news. You ought to grab one of the other ones over there, and run it for a little bit." But it's just a phenomenal saw. So smooth, so smooth and stuff. And just and, I mean, you can take it over the tree with you, and it runs forever on a tank of gas too. So
Hmm.
just a good saw. Good saw. But yeah, I hate I ain't been able to be on here the last few weeks, but just God, just crazy stuff. But maybe I can get back in the rotation again and everything.
Oh, well, we've had some good guys contributing, so we've had fun. And like I said, we don't have many people dropping by on Thursday night, all that many, but it, several hundred starting to look at the videos throughout the week. So
Hmm. Good,
getting some
good.
information out there. And I've always done small groups anyway, so and it's paid off over the years. So
Hmm.
we just
Yeah,
keep pushing at it.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you all for
Yes,
dropping by,
sir.
and we'll be hanging out next Thursday night. So if you get a chance, drop back by. Warren's been
Yeah,
good,
man.
and I'm gonna make a couple announcements, and then I'm gonna close down. So, but
All right.
appreciate y'all very very much.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Mr. Tim. See you,
Thank
Warren.
you. Take care.
Yes,
It's
yes,
good
sir.
seeing
Take
y'all.
care. Yes,
All
sir. See
right.
y'all.
Bye.
Well, thank you, folks. I hope you've enjoyed those discussions tonight. Tim O'Brien, Cotton Top 3, and Sirens Projects chainsaw specialist, and Warren Causey. And it's something where there's a lot of equipment operation that happens, and chainsaws are part of getting that to that position, but then the tie it all in together makes it a pretty efficient process to clean up trees and get trees to the mill and in all cases. So it's nice to have people that can discuss all of those things. But I wanted to throw out, we just finished up a 3 day what we call storm sawing workshop. We had it over in Kingston, Georgia, and we had that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Finished up this afternoon. Had people from Colorado and Ohio, and we had Wisconsin or Michigan, and all over the country. A lot of people are working either areas of land management or storm cleanup, and working with different disaster groups. And it's something where a lot of chainsaw operation is going on out there. And if you don't have to necessarily get involved in our programs, but you need to make sure, first of all, that you familiarize yourself with the equipment operator's manual, and then seek out some information. There's a lot of good stuff on there. You kind of have to weed through it a little bit with social media, but it is something to where there's a lot of good training opportunities out there. And so please check on that. If you're getting started in chainsaw operation, or it's also a good idea if you've got several years of experience to take and have a little refresher, think through. And it may be stuff that you don't use every day, that a good refresher helps you to be able to bring things back in line. Or it might be that you might see something or learn something that you didn't know already that makes your job and your task a lot easier, and maybe even a little bit safer. So that's what training is all about if it's done correctly. It's not just watching somebody do something, it's having them instruct you and teach you how it should be done, and from the planning process, and then pick the right tool out of the toolbox to be able to take and accomplish the job safely and productively. A couple of things that we have going on at Forest Applications. Like I said, we finished the storm sawing workshop today in Kingston, Georgia, but we've got another one planned that Chris Childs is going to be heading up in Dry Fork, Virginia. And it's in the Danville, Virginia area, and it's going to be April 25th through the 27th. And if you're interested in that, you can send me a email at info@forestapps.com, or you can click your phone on this and go to our e-store. There's a registration process there that'll let you know those things. And so that's available coming up on April 25th through 27th. It's a 3 day program, and it's quite worth your time and finances. I'll guarantee it. Everybody today had a great time. So learned a lot, and a lot of them had some experience there. Then I've got a Zoom training workshop that I'm going to be doing. I've done about 2 of these so far, and this is going to be April the 22nd, 7 to 9 p.m. It's a class that's going over chainsaw basics, and a little bit of some refresher stuff might be good in there too. But it's looking at the PPE and sharpening and adjustments and those kinds of things that chainsaw operators need. And so we do it online. It's about 2 hours, and it's $25 per person. If you have a larger group, church group, or you're managing a team, if you've got more people, just send me a email at info@forestapps.com, and I can give you a group discount on there. And you can sign into these things on your telephone or on your computer, or you can group up and do it with a projector with a larger group. So please, if you're thinking about a little bit of basic chainsaw, it could be worth it. We also have the ability to set up and offer some specialty groups, and one of them that we've been doing is the saw chain clinic. I've had a couple of those, and just an hour long, just kind of go through about different types of saw chain, how to maintain it, how to set it up, some different filing devices and tools. And it's not specific. I'm not giving out a lot of technique per se. I'm just showing you the basics of chainsaw and different designs, and then you can be able to look at the different tools and maybe be able to make a more educated choice about what you need for your chainsaw and your saw chain maintenance. And so that's a key. And other topics that we have, I have live consultation that's available. I work with a lot of the different groups, and if I can't answer your question, I'll find somebody who can. And so, if you've got a power company or tree care or logging that you're having some issues with the chainsaw side of the operation, um, I might be able to offer some different things that can help you out from the standpoint of safety as well as productivity. And so you think through that. We do have a few things I'm still trying to get cleaned out off our e-store. You can check on that. And other than that, you can be able to click on our QR codes and off of our website at www.forestapps.com. And also, Chris Childs is traveling the country, and then David Breeden's helping out in some of the Georgia different training programs, and so those guys are out there beating the bushes while my health is not capable to be able to do much travel, and but they have been carrying on the program. They're well trained and versed in our single, 2, and 3 day programs, and so they have a lot of experience in storm damage as well as tree work. So you can be able to contact our office and set up training, on the hands-on at your location. So we hope that you'll check into that should you have the need, desire, and we'll go from there. But anyway, I appreciate Cotton Top 3 and Warren dropping by tonight. And I noticed Robert Albritton checked in, and David was in and out a little bit too. And so we have every Thursday night, sometimes a panel to be able to discuss questions, and I'll get questions throughout the week off of the videos, and we'll discuss those different things. And so hopefully we'll see you next Thursday night at Thursday Night Saws Live. This is Tim Ard, and wishing you good sawing. So thank you all, and hope to see you next week. Have a good one. Good night.